as a CEO, or what kind of questions do you think the CEO has to ask in order to make the transition over to saying, okay, I need to invest more on data analysis, on asking the right questions, so that I can improve my services to my customers? What is there a certain point where you have to say, I need to invest more so that I can extrapolate more data from it, and in turn sell extra services on the front end to my artist community or other things? Do you envisage it developing that way? Are there a certain set of questions you need to ask yourself?
Well, I think for any web-based or mobile-based company, analytics is critical. You know, I mean, as simple as stuff like number of users, page views, all kinds of activity, how long they're on, stuff like that. But if you look at a lot of these Facebook developers and other groups, they focus a lot of their energies on that. You look at like a Zynga, they can just take some random game that's popular, but then they can apply their game mechanics and their system onto it and essentially turn a lot of games and just make them much more popular by just doing heavy analytics and really using the kind of principles that they built up. So I think it's quite critical. And as far as amount of resources, it depends. I mean, every company is different, but I think it's something that a lot of them pay a lot of attention to. At least, at the very least, you know, page views and unique visitors, things like that.
A quick comment.
Yes.
So I think sometimes, you know, you run into those questions. It's like your homepage design. Is homepage A better and homepage B better? And it comes down to a very political discussions, right? Oh, this is superior. And what? But the lady over there said, oh, that one is better. You know, I really hate that kind of discussions. I really hate, you know, making, you know, it's like a subjective judgment. You know, just run an experiment. You know, you run 2 versions of the site, show it to the user, and see which one you have a better conversion rate. So that's the point, that I think a lot of business decisions can be driven by data instead of by judgment. And it's simpler too. So, you know, then everyone is going to be quiet because now we have the data to speak for itself.
How much time do you spend in going through analytics for your site?
I mean, our CTO spends most of the time doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I just try to get the major statistical points. Yeah.
Okay. And what's your tool? Is it Google Analytics?
That is one of the tools we use, as well as internal metrics.
Okay. All right. Well, since so many people are developing mobile apps now, how do you deal with analytics with, let's say you're using a mobile app and you don't have a website or something? How would you explain to a person whose background is in content or in commerce or in consumer retail, how would you get them to start thinking in terms of using analytics and eventually, you know, looking at data in order to get insights to take them up to the next level? Do you guys have a path, a guided conversation for doing that?
We'll use Mother App then, because because we can track everything in our systems. But I guess for other people, there are actually some analytics company around, but this becomes actually a very difficult conversation because, you know, Steve Jobs is not very happy with the analytics company, right? Because he's actually testing the iPad, and a week later, some Furry published that, you know, there are like 10 new devices in the Apple campus, and that makes Steve Jobs goes mad. And but it's not that difficult to track those information.
So you must have a way in order to guide these people, in order to start looking at the importance of analytics, because I really see analytics as becoming more and more important in, you know, simple A/B testing and this kind of thing in order to improve the quality of the app or the website.
Yeah, I think one of the most simple thing is we can just measure what the typical measure is going to be right now, like the number of visitors, unique visitors, number of page view, you know, that kind of stuff. We can mimic that analytics to the mobile space, and they can do the same thing. So
Does Microsoft doing a lot on the analytics side too in order to?
Yes, I think so, but that's not my work day to day. But I'm sure. But because now, for example, I also own some of the like events or web pages in Hong Kong. Me as a user, okay, within the company. So I also have a lot of this kind of analytics. Click through. If we put a video, a webcast on the web, how is the people responding to it? How many clicks there? Those are absolutely important for me to drive the other content. Yeah, but of course, in terms of the reach, etc., we also need to leverage Facebook, even YouTube, etc., in order to get a message across. So that's the way to go.
I guess to answer your questions better, and again, it is my general philosophy is on this mobile space, how can you do something that is true to the nature of this medium? I guess for Alive Not That, for example, I guess they're doing a lot of events, and maybe maybe it's very important for them to track the GPS as well, so they know know their user better, their demographics, where they are. And maybe, is it better to have an event in Hong Kong Island or the Hong Kong or the Kowloon side, that kind of stuff. And so, again, I guess my general reply is going to be one, we can make use of the device nature, and two, we can do deeper. I think this is along the line of, what other people have said as well.
All right, Andy, you were talking about cloud computing, and your initiative, or Microsoft's initiative in Hong Kong, is to develop, I guess, market base for cloud computing, correct? Where do you see your first customers coming from for cloud computing in Hong Kong?
For cloud computing, there are actually a few, but some of them are big, some of them are really small. Companies with just like five or 10 staffs, things like that. It actually have a very broad range of customers. Enterprise will have their need. Small companies will or startups will also have their need, but their needs are usually different. When I talk to some big enterprises in Hong Kong. So without mentioning their names, most of their concern will be, hey, those are my data, right? How am I, why should I put that on Microsoft or Google or Amazon's server? No, they do not feel safe with that. Now, this is especially true for government entities, okay? So when we talk to education bureau, I don't know that, or other housing authorities. So they are really reluctant to do that. And if I tell them, hey, the servers, some of them will sit in US, some of them, in Singapore, they will immediately say no. So that is a very important consideration for enterprises. But we do have some enterprise that is leveraging cloud computing. For example, those as an insurance company, okay? So they have kind of an online, as a kind of a product catalog, okay, system that they need to integrate with different partners, okay? Now, those partners will go seasonally. So this month there may be many of them, next month there may be not many of them. So it actually fluctuates. And because those product information are actually public, they are willing to do that on cloud. Okay, so these are a kind of enterprise consideration, and it's actually for the difference, the nature of the data that's when they're considering using or not using. Now, for smaller companies or startups, more important concern that they have is actually the pricing. In most cases, when I go to talk to them, it is not a technical discussion. This is just a ROI discussion. Okay, if I invest on the hardware, invest a technical person to maintain the hardware, what is the cost? okay, together with the opportunity cost that if my server goes down, if the usage goes up, okay, and then they cannot access my website or my service or whatever, and then what will I lose? Okay, so they need to put that into a formula. So that is actually an ROI calculation, business discussion most of the time for that. So actually the customer base, varies a lot from big to small, but they actually have different concerns. Yep.
How do you address the issue because traditionally back-end architectures for data centers has been Unix, Linux based. How do you I assume that Microsoft's solution would be all on Windows architecture, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you? Well, number one, you need good Windows back-end people who are familiar with Windows Server architecture, and then if you're going after companies which are already using a data center, most likely they're using Unix and Linux. So how do you overcome these barriers?
Now, actually, there are 90% of cases is like what you have said. Okay, they already have Unix, Linux, etc. But I think one very important point that many developers or architects are missing is that Microsoft is actually very good in interoperability. So if we put that in the cloud area, we are talking about cloud plus on-premises. Okay, so if we have something that you want to put in the cloud, it do not need to be the whole thing. So if you have your Linux, your Unix server there, then it's okay. Just sit them there. If you have something that you want to put on the cloud, then just put it on the cloud, and then they can interop in between with that through XML. If it is in a cloud computing scenario. So usually it's go along the way. It's actually very difficult to change, overlays from other platform to Windows or vice versa actually, because they also have a lot of things to build in already.
Okay.